It is our Wednesday show. You know, Wednesdays are special because it brings into our mix someone who has really distinguished himself in so many ways when it comes to presidential history, American history, governmental history. And so he has met his moment, an unprecedented moment in Congress with the happenings of yesterday and the McCarthy removal. I'll be curious to get John Rothmann's thoughts about all of this. Here he is, John Rothmann, everyone.
All right, Mark, happy anniversary. That's the first thing. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be included in your number.
Well, as I've told you before publicly, and I'll tell you again publicly, we are exploiting you. You've been part of our success. People love you, and I understand why. And now here you are commenting on an historic moment and a period in American history. Could you speak to everything going on?
Yeah, look, Mark, yesterday was an exceptional moment in the history of our country. We've never seen anything like it. We've never had a speaker repudiated by his own political party. Granted, a small number, but it revealed the weakness of what Kevin McCarthy did to become speaker. He made a deal with the devil. And the minute he agreed to the idea that one person could raise an objection and have him removed as speaker, I think he sealed his own doom. And may I say, it's on his head. The real story is the Republicans, self-destructive, they don't know how to govern, and they're very worried that they might lose their majority in the next congressional election. And based on their record, that's exactly what they deserve.
Well, even as you say that, I mean, that seems demonstrably the case. I'm wondering, Congress, the House is so heavily gerrymandered, many of these districts, that I think you can tell me, which is kind of why I'm asking you, what real risk many of these legislators have in their districts because they are so heavily gerrymandered.
It's a great question, but we've seen gerrymandered districts before, and if a national trend emerges, and we've seen those kinds of revolutions in 1994 with Newt Gingrich taking power, with the Democrats seizing control with Nancy Pelosi as speaker, you just never know. And so I can only say it's true the Republicans have an advantage in some districts. The Democrats have advantages in other districts, but it's the swing districts that are going to make all the difference in the world.
John, can you speak to what will happen now in terms of another shutdown of the government? I mean, they bought a month, but it appears that that same group that removed McCarthy is pretty committed to shutting down the government. They're not big fans of government.
They are, but understand something. The minute you have a motion to vacate the chair, and the chair is vacated, no business can take place in the House of Representatives without an elected speaker. The speaker pro tem, the person who is presiding now, has only three things that person can do. One is call the session to order. Two, to adjourn or recess. And frankly, number three, to call on people who want to speak. That's it. So until the Republicans resolve what they want to do, which will be a week from now, there will be a dramatic vote. And of course, what we have are critical issues on the table. The question of what happens when the agreement that McCarthy reached expires. Number two, what happens in Congress when they have a new speaker in terms of the approach to all of the issues, especially Ukraine. And people don't quite get it, but Ukraine was a critical issue for many of these renegade Republicans. So this is going to be really something. Candidates to succeed, we have two declared candidates. Scalise, who is the number two person in the Republican leadership, he is a martyr. He was severely injured in the baseball game shooting, and he's come back. Now, he has a blood disorder, cancer, but he seems to be doing okay. People like him. Let me explain. He's very far to the right. He's not a moderate Republican by any stretch of the imagination, but he is somebody who is to be reckoned with because most people view him in a favorable fashion. They like him. He's a likable guy. Now, Jim Jordan is announced as well. Talk about a polarizing figure. Jim Jordan is the most polarizing figure imaginable. But whatever happens, even if he's not speaker, he remains chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, which is a critical role. So we're seeing a reshuffling of the Republican deck. And you'll please note that Donald Trump is quiet. He's not commenting on the leadership race. I was asked a question whether he might be interested in being Speaker of the House. And I said last night in an interview that I did, absolutely not. He would not accept such a position. And so I don't expect.
Well, you couldn't possibly. I mean, between his court cases and his golf game, you can't. He wouldn't want any job that would force him to show up.
That's true, but also it's unprecedented. There has never been a non-House member who has been elected Speaker. You could theoretically do that, but it just hasn't happened. And look, the Republicans in the House are ambitious, Mark. Believe it or not, they would like to be in charge. And so no one is going to surrender their potential ability to become Speaker of the House, which I would remind you is one of the most powerful positions in our government. You are a heartbeat away, if you will, after the Vice President. You're next in line for the presidency, and it's a big, big job with great responsibility. Kevin McCarthy earned everything he got yesterday by the agreements that he made in order to get the deal. It was a deal with the devil, if you will. If you remember, the devil and Daniel Webster was the same sort of deal of somebody selling their soul for power.
Yeah, I mean, I said in the first half hour, it's a Faustian deal he made, and he deserved it. Now, but I want to get back to shutting the government down, because the reality is that, first of all, it speaks to the lunacy of the House right now, that they remove McCarthy, and then what do? They take the rest of the week off. They literally, as John said, won't be back until next Tuesday.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it really is. It is crazy. So I ask you, John, again, with this coalition, the extreme right-wing coalition committed to shutting the government down, even over Ukraine or whatever, they hang the hook of shutting government down, hang on the hook of shutting the government down, many different things, as you're aware. But Ukraine is a big one, Ukraine money. I think there's a pretty good chance that it could happen again. Do you agree?
Yes, of course. Everyone understands it could happen again. And that's the tragedy. Let me point out the most salient thing in my mind, and that is that the Democrats didn't bring McCarthy down. The Republicans did. They're like a circular firing squad. And let me tell you, yesterday was not a good day for the Republicans. Not only did McCarthy get toppled, but where's Donald Trump? He's having a gag order imposed, a partial gag order, so that he can't continue to ruminate, condemn, speak out against the judge. I mean, you couldn't make this up. And what's tragic is, have you heard a word from any Republicans about the conduct of Donald Trump? Have you heard a word from any of them about Matt Gaetz? And by the way, just so you know this, the last time we elected a speaker when McCarthy won, Matt Gaetz cast his vote for Donald Trump. So it was no surprise when this came up again.
Well, I mean, just because you mentioned Matt Gaetz, and it's good that you did, because Matt Gaetz was really the prime mover on this move against McCarthy. Matt Gaetz is under an ethics investigation that's pretty serious. I mean, I think it's violation of the Mann Act. It's about to, it's literally transporting.
Did he kidnap an underage woman for sex? That's the
Thank you.
question.
That's exactly it.
I want to be clear. Matt Gaetz, by the way, feels he's the big winner. He is not ambitious in the House. He intends to run for governor of Florida when Ron DeSantis' term expires. Ron DeSantis is term limited. And Matt Gaetz could be the Republican nominee for governor of Florida. What a world we live in.
I mean, but I should just mention to round off the Matt Gaetz thing, that even though there wasn't enough there to bring sort of legal charges against Gaetz, although his partner was not only tried, he was convicted. He's doing time right now. The guy who's involved in the same kind of transportation of underage women. Gaetz could still be, tell me, John, I think I'm right about this, but I mean, the ethics committee they could go as far as to expel Gaetz, or they could certainly there could be some kind of sanction on Gaetz, even though the legal case wasn't there. The ethics committee has a different standard.
The operative word, Mark, is could. They could.
You don't think it'll happen? You don't think it'll happen?
Highly unlikely. Okay. Forgive the phone. I have it off the hook, but we've got several lines coming into the house, and I missed one.
No, it's no problem.
The end of it. Go ahead.
John's podcast is Around the Political World with John Rothmann. It's a daily podcast that John does, and he's got tremendous following. Let me now ask you about Trump and the gag order. You
Yes.
have referenced it sort of in a glancing way before. Give me the arithmetic on Trump and the law and the gag order.
Okay, it's up to the judge. Remember, this is not a jury trial. Trump's lawyers did not request a jury trial, and so he doesn't have a jury trial. It's up to the judge. What is he doing every day? He's blasting the judge, and he's blasting the judge's staff, and he's making wild accusations. And essentially, the judge said, "Stop! I'm putting a gag order. It's a partial gag order. It does not mention Trump by name, but it mentions those who were involved in the trial. No one is allowed to comment. Will Donald Trump observe it? Of course not. He's not going to. But now he left today because he has campaign appearances. But I would suggest to you his sitting in that courtroom, which is not required, is a campaign appearance. That's what he's doing. He's trying to say to his base, I'm going to survive this. We're going to fight back. And that's Donald Trump. I don't understand, to be very honest with you, how a former president of the United States of America could have the chutzpah to attack a judge, to attack a district attorney, to make the kind of statements Donald Trump has made and not be taken down by his own political party. The deafening silence of the Republicans is appalling. It's inexcusable. And I have to tell you, Mark, and our listeners, I hope that the chickens come home to roost. That is to say, that Republicans ultimately wake up and understand the tremendous danger of a Donald Trump. Can I use one other example, if I may? The contrast between what was said last Friday by Joe Biden, the president of the United States, on the threat to democracy, versus Donald Trump's harangue, in which he made the most outlandish, outrageous comments, including that looters should be shot on sight. It is a contrast of approach. And look, I'm a simple fellow. I understand you can criticize a lot of people for a lot of things, but it is inconceivable to me that if you take those two speeches and you put them side by side, which is what I've done, what Donald Trump said is so outrageous, so egregious, so irresponsible, so contrary to America's system. It's just appalling. And it proved, in my mind anyway, the validity of Joe Biden's very eloquent address on the question of democracy in America.
In my last minute or two with you, John Rothmann, I want to ask you about the replacement for Dianne Feinstein. Now, this was LaFonza Butler talked about in the context of being a veteran labor leader, and but not in the three primary candidates who were circling that seat. You know, Barbara Lee and Adam Schiff and Katie Porter. Give me your thoughts on the replacement and the very real essence of this that could divide Democrats about this seat and the support for LaFonza Butler, please.
It was a brilliant move by Gavin Newsom. She touches all the bases. She's black. She was not a candidate. She's gay. She has a husband. She is absolutely a solid choice, highly respected. I talked to friends of mine who were involved in Emily's List. They were all marvelously pleased with the selection, very surprised. Remember that the senator was not on anyone's list at all. It came completely out of the dark. I mean, nobody knew. And may I say that this is another example of Gavin Newsom. Whatever you think about Gavin Newsom, he is very smart, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And I wonder, and we don't know the answer to the question, of whether when he said he had a black woman in mind, whether this wasn't in his mind all the way along.
Yeah, so well put. I mean,
and she may run. She may announce.
Okay. So now that's
everybody to run for the United States Senate in California. You've got to be able to raise millions of dollars. She is with Emily's List. There is no organization better organized to raise money than Emily's List.
That helps. Tell everybody, or remind us, it helps women win political office, among other, and exactly. Deals a lot of women's issues in very strong ways, and rallies political support and money, as John says, in that way.
So if she chooses to run, she will be formidable. I have to say that Barbara Lee, I think, has a problem just in terms of continuing to garner support. Katie Porter is very well liked, but has not really taken off. The one who is a real opposition in my mind is Adam Schiff, who has raised massive amounts of money, has a wonderful reputation among Democrats, and was really viewed as the person who would probably win the primary. But Gavin Newsom has pulled another remarkable achievement. He's come up with a person whose credentials on paper and in fact are impeccable from Gavin Newsom's point of view and appealing to his base. And he also, let me point out, fulfilled his promise.
So, well, just because you mentioned the promise, and I really do have to jam here, but I love that you mention it. You know, he promised or indicated he didn't want to put his finger on the scale, and so that's why he passed over the three that we mentioned, you know, Lee, Schiff, and Porter. But the reality is there is no guarantee that Butler won't run. And so that would be a four-person race. As you said, that it might give her the edge in some way. She is, from a fundraising standpoint, she has some advantages. Do you feel in some way that his indication that he got 15 months left in the Feinstein seat, that he wouldn't put his finger on the scale, did he honor that or not?
Yes, I think he did. His putting the finger on a scale would have been to choose one of the three active candidates.
Okay.
The fact that he chose not to do that, and the fact that he put someone in who no one knows whether she will run.
Okay.
What was critical in my mind is that Gavin said he didn't ask for any commitments. And what that means is it's wide open. And if she runs, I want to emphasize this, we don't know her. The state of California doesn't know her, but she checks all the boxes of being a progressive, being African-American, being a lesbian, being someone who has advocated for women's rights, pro-choice, absolutely solid, and is well known to her base. And because her base is a powerful base in the California Democratic Party, and because she will have the ability, because of Emily's List, which raises vast amounts of money in order to support candidates they believe in, believe me, if the senator chooses to run, she will be a formidable contender. And if I were an Adam Schiff or a Katie Porter, who are the leading candidates, in my mind anyway, at least according to the polls, I would be very worried about it.
2 points that come in over the transom here. One is from Champagne Wishes. Are we not tired of lobbyists? I am. Same old, same old. Well, I would say, Mark, here it is, Mark. She's another connected insider. I would say this, and then, John, I'd like your... It depends what you're lobbying for. You know, when I hear lobbyist, are you an environmental lobbyist? Are you an oil company lobbyist? Are you lobbying for women's reproductive rights? I mean, these are all different things. So, John, speak to, if you will, just labeling somebody as a lobbyist, to me, I understand the implication, but it doesn't quite go far enough in specifics.
Not all lobbyists are negative.
Thank you.
When I was running Senator Marks' staff, I used to bring in lobbyists from two sides of an issue, put them in the same room, and have them argue in front of the senator and myself. Why? Because it raised issues, illuminated issues, gave us detail. So I'm not opposed to lobbyists. There's always a lobby for something. This woman, a newly minted United States senator, has a track record of believing in the issues she supports, of raising money for people that she believes can win. And no one, please note, there has been no criticism of her ability on that level. So I think it was a great choice. And I think this is another example of Gavin Newsom, whatever you want to say about him, is a smart guy. By the way, we're all going to be listening on November 30th. I know it's Winston Churchill's birthday and everybody will be celebrating Churchill's birthday. But on November the 30th, there will be a debate between Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis. And some say it may be the debate of the future. That is to say, a future presidential campaign. On the other hand, for both of them, it will be a critical moment of national exposure on Fox. It will be broadcast on Fox. Sean Hannity, I believe, is responsible for it. And I can't wait. I can't wait.
Sean Hannity's already written up his teleprompter script for after the debate, talking about how Newsom got owned by DeSantis. You know, and they've already decided. The jury's already come in on it.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Are you suggesting that one of the number one commentators in the country has a bias and might preconceive their notion? Oh, Mark,
How about the great John Rothmann? Around the Political World with John Rothmann. Subscribe to his podcast. It's a daily blast of politics and analysis, and we will talk to you next week, sir. John
Congratulations
Rothmann,
on 1 year.
Thank you, buddy. You're so supportive. We appreciate it very much. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.